Seconds, I guess. First person in, let me know that you're in, right? Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. Let's do our intros. Actually, I did that way wrong backwards. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat, y'all. Okay. For the first person in, I guess make a comment. Let me know that you guys are in. This is gonna be a little bit of a rant. And we're gonna start off with me revisiting the Juicy video where she speaks about how black women have never really been encouraged to date down. And she is correct about that, like I said in the previous video where we covered it. But this time I really went through the comments and I watched, or I read better yet, as Juicy went to war kind of with her own subscribers, right? Or the people that follow her and listen to her. And they were not trying to hear it, right? These are black women. Juicy is a black woman, right? And all you hear is, well, all you read, better yet, is women just contorting. Like, Juicy is the historian here. She's the person that came with the facts and the history and how black women really have never been encouraged to marry down. And they were like, well, we're not talking about back in slavery. Well, we're not talking about Jim Crow. We'll talk, like, black men are not educated enough, and black men are not raised to provide, and black men are not, and you're just reading these comments and you're watching, and like, they're hyper focused. You can tell, like, Mr. Z says this all the time. Yes, I'm talking about myself in a third person today. Um, you can tell that these particular people, and I'm going to be using profanity tonight. You can tell these people just wanted Juicy to come in with the fire and brimstone and be like, these niggas ain't shit, y'all right? Beginning, end, these niggas ain't shit. They ain't build shit. They don't do shit. They're horrible fathers. They're horrible baby fathers. They're horrible husbands if they ever do get married, right? That is, Juicy committed the ultimate sin, and in one particular instance, she didn't regurgitate what the rest of the sisterhood wanted her to say, right? And so what you saw were just comment after comment just ripping her to shreds because, oh, she just wants us to be pro black no matter how horrible it is. These are real comments, right? These are real comments, real people, real black women going in on another black woman because she said, hey, we haven't really been encouraged to date down throughout our history in America. That's not really what's been going on, right? And these people, in their insane, like, myopic view, they don't actually know that men in general are going to college less and less. University and college is a 60-40 split, 60% women, 40% men. They don't know that. So they think it's just a black thing. They don't, like, your parents, your mothers, your grandmothers terraformed the college environment and the university environment to be beneficial for you, and then boys and men have decided, yeah, I'm not going. And, like, you don't even understand why. First of all, you don't even know to understand why. You just think it's lazy, shiftless, loser black boys and men who don't want to attend higher education, right? And so if they're not high level blue collar men with certificates here and there and are bringing in some six figures, and then they're not college educated, high earning white collar men that you get to show off, right? You get to show off in front of your white friends and your white female co-workers and be like, look, I got me a high earning man too. You deem those black men lacking. Unfortunately for you, even if you decide to date out, well, you're gonna run into extra average white men that are pretty much the white equivalent of the black man you would have got. I know I'm not supposed to say that out loud. This is what happens when you're not taking into account that the society has rejiggered itself to be more comfortable and suitable for women's interest. which means you're going to get less of these particular type of men that all of you are pining for. How can you be so myopic? Once again, this goes back to the question of social math. Like, you don't really understand what's going on. And so Julesy is trying to explain some of this, and the women are not hearing it. You go through her comments, there's a few women that, generally gave her props. Thank you. I never thought about marriage this way. I never thought about relationships this way, right? I never thought about the black community this way. There's a few comments like that. But I would argue the overwhelming majority of the comments are going in on Julesy, acting like she don't know what she's talking about because they're in their feelings. Once again, their neoliberal assessment of men and masculinity, and them pining for upper middle class and rich white womanhood, once again the myth of white womanhood, got them going in on their own sister because she's saying, hey, it ain't what y'all think. And moving along, segueing to something else. So Mr. Z clicked on a damn Lexus Exodus video recently. And I didn't listen to the whole thing. I kind of skimmed through it, right? Y'all like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. I skimmed through it, and yeah. So as I said before, it's going to be interesting. It is going to happen in real time in front of us. We are going to witness this. We are going to witness the Richard Reeves of the world, not him maybe specifically, but these kind of white male researchers, and maybe even a few white female researchers, go to war with black women, these divester adjacent black women. I'm including the educated ones that don't let themselves be known, but have a very great disdain for black men, black heterosexual men in particular. We're going to watch these people go to war, because what white men are doing, to a certain extent, is what white women did with feminism, which is use black women as a shield and say, look, these helpless, hopeless black women, we got to do for them, and then run out the back door with all the goodies. Now, I'm not saying all white men are going to run out the back door with all the goodies, although I think they will try. I just hope black men are more vigilant than black women were. But white men see how black men are the canary in the coal mine. We're talking about the Scott Galloways and the Richard Reeves, right? And so it's going to be interesting to watch as white men and even some white women argue back and forth with these kind of divester, swirler, black women in luxury, essentially black women are better than black men type of black women, about patriarchy versus social dominance order. It's going to be interesting to watch as white men say, yeah, black men are men, but that means that we see them as our direct and primary competition, which means we created the world to be tougher on them than you. Your whole entire concept of intersectionality in this respect is trash. And it's going to be interesting to listen to black women talk about how trash black men are and how they should advance because they are men in a patriarchal society, and watch as white men say, yeah, they are men in a white patriarchal society. That's going to be interesting. Why am I bringing that up in this conversation about Lexus Exodus? Because that's what she pulled in her video. I have 2 degrees and I make multiples of 6 figures. And if you're a black man, you're a man in a patriarchy. So if I can make it, you can make it. I mean, and she said the same thing I often say. If we are raised in this environment, right? Black girls and black boys attend the same schools. They attend the same churches. They live in the same neighborhoods. They listen to much of the same music. So how is it that black women feel as if they are superior morally compared to their black male counterparts? And so Lexus Exodus takes that and flips it on its head and say, well, if we have all these same experiences, but we also are in a patriarchy, then you should be doing better than me. And this, once again, is why I like to remind everyone this is how black women weaponize intersectionality against their black male counterparts. Your plights as a you may have plights as a black person, and even that I'm weary to acknowledge. But you just have plights because you're black. I'm black and a woman, and I might be a black dark-skinned woman, and I might be a black dark-skinned woman that's not maybe seen as traditionally attractive, and I'm LGBTQ. So I have multiple stack, and this is where intersectionality comes in. I have stacked oppression because of how I present, because of my race, because of the class position I've once occupied, etc., etc. And so everything you're saying means nothing. You as a black man, you're still a man though, because patriarchy is seen as this like all-encompassing thing that all men get to participate in and benefit from when it's convenient for these particular type of women, right? So in the argument, they get to benefit from making this kind of very exaggerated claim or suggestion that black men benefit from white patriarchy. They don't ever put the white part on it though, because then it becomes very clear that that makes no sense. So they just say the patriarchy, right? And once again, this is to shut down any type of grievance black men have, right? Number one. But number two, it's also to shame black men because, air quotes, black men haven't advanced as much as black women. And that's because black men are coddled. And this is the video that Alexis Exodus was making, right? Which is, why do black mothers hate their black daughters? I told y'all, much of this is some childhood trauma stuff, man. Much of this is, I had to be in the house at 9 and he got to come in at 10. Why did my brother get to come in at 10 and I had to be in the house at 9? Why did I have to wash dishes and he didn't? Right? Then she might go through one or two heartbreaks in high school or in college, might have been overlooked once or twice, and then she's done. She's a neo-Nazi at that point. Right? At that point, these people become neo-Nazis. Their fathers might not have been part of their life. Whether he was or not doesn't matter, because on top of that, they feel like their parents were favoring their brothers. Then they come out here in the real world and may have been overlooked by young black boys or black men they feel like they should have been attracted to, or should have been attracted to them, better yet. Then they get their little heart broken in college and it's done. Now you're dealing with a swirler or a divester. And the worst kind. Right? These people are like insane with it. To hear, and mind you, remember, I just skimmed through, but to hear the whole argument of, well, you're a man and we live in a patriarchy, so how am I able to have these multiple degrees? And, side note, and before I read Big Kev's comment, as I've said multiple times, y'all have heard Mr. Z say this. This is a very classist argument, by the way. Yes, we know there are hood black women, lower class, poorer black women, or excuse me, poorer black women, lower middle class black women, who are also making some of these twirler divester arguments. We know that that's the case. There are some of those, yes. But much of the argument is coming from these kind of upwardly mobile, semi-affluent, right? Kind of upper middle class or upper middle class adjacent, just about to get there type of black women that are making these type of arguments. And once again, it's because they have a neoliberal assessment of men. So it's Well, I have my degree and I have my money and I have some status and I've been in my career path, especially for those of you millennials that are around my age in your mid 30s, maybe your late 30s. So your female counterparts are incensed because for them it's where's my man? And they're saying that to God or the universe, to society, to the black community, to non-black community, right? Where's my male equip? I did everything I was supposed to do, right? And in the unwritten fine print, I know, yeah, that sounds crazy, Mr. Z. It doesn't make any sense, but follow me. In the unwritten fine print, it says, get your education, go to school, do this, do that, be a solid member of society, pay your taxes, and then Prince Charming is gonna come and save you from everything. And so you'll be making six figures, and then he'll be making even more six figures, if not millions, right? Mr. Z's not making this up. They really paint this picture in their head. And so much of the anger is that I'm upwardly mobile and where's my man? That is much of the argument. The Lexus Exodus of the world, that's their argument. Even though she, from my understanding, is in a relationship with a non-black man. But the argument is, and this is why, and as a matter of fact, tying this to the Julesy video that I mentioned earlier, and much of the reason why I am putting up this video. Actually, let me read Big Kev's comment first so that we don't lose it. And then I'll finish that. Big Kev says, patriarchy is code word for authoritarian. Most feminists are actually pro-authoritarian, provided that it has a gynocentric bias. See communism. A. A, right? I'm actually going to make a comment about that in a little bit. So much of the reason why I'm making this video is because of a comment that I might have overlooked the first time I watched that the Julesy video where she speaks about black women never being encouraged to really marry down. And it was the comment about victimhood, right? Victim mentality, better yet. And as a black man born and raised in America, I am careful to say that other black people have a victim mentality, because you slowly start to sleepwalk into being okay with watching that person be oppressed or be hurt or even maybe be killed because you think that person's playing victim. Not that they really are. Not that this system's oppressive. Not that this person, not that you got lucky, one thing in your life went right and then everything went right compared to that person. So y'all were walking down the same road. You could have been in the same position as that person. You made a left, they made a right, they fell off a cliff and you didn't. It was that simple. So I'm very careful in how I speak about these things. And once I start hearing black people accuse other black people of having a victim mentality, I already know where this can possibly lead to. And what it leads to is just a wholesale dismissal of everything negative that is happening to black people currently. Maybe these people will acknowledge Jim Crow. Sometimes they don't even do that. Maybe they'll acknowledge, and these are the people, by the way, when you take their worldview to its logical conclusion, these are the people that starts doing the whole, well, slavery was a choice, right? And that's black man and black woman. But in this particular case, to read a comment, and this comment had over 100 likes, if I'm not mistaken. In Julesy's comments, this is not even Lexus Exodus, this is Julesy's comments, saying black men have a victim mentality. This also speaks to what happens in a society that's practicing social dominance order. And so it keeps its foot on men's neck, men of color, these kind of outside groups of men's neck. It keeps its foot on their neck in a way it doesn't necessarily keep its foot on the women's neck. As the women elevate, yes, they might be talented. Yes, they might have worked hard. Yes, all of that. But as they elevate, they think they're elevating and their male counterparts aren't, because their male counterparts are that horrible. They're not paying attention to the feminist ass education system. They don't they don't even acknowledge that. They don't even think that's a thing. That's some figment of men's imagination, right? They're not paying attention to that. They're not paying attention to all of the outgroup males that don't occupy that top 20, maybe top third, but mainly top 20% are somewhere floating in the wind. And that includes your working class and lower middle class white men, your poor white men. And so, because these particular women just do not factor that in, they will accuse men, black men, of having a victim mentality. Like Lexus Exodus said, how is it that I have multiple degrees, I make multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars, she's a multiple six figures a year, and you're a man, and we live in a patriarchy, and you're not here? Once again, a wholesale dismissal of anything that might negatively affect you that doesn't negatively affect them, because she's a woman. And this also speaks to that feminist ass mentality, black feminist, excuse me, let's be very clear. Black feminist mentality that says, well, if you elevate black women, you automatically elevate everyone else, because black women are on the bottom of the bottom of the bottom of the bottom. This is where intersectionality comes in, right? Because black women are on the bottom of the bottom of the bottom of the bottom, when you elevate them, you automatically elevate everyone else. On the other side of that is a complete dismissal of the oppression or the hurt or the pain that anyone else is experiencing, because they couldn't possibly be going through something worse than you or something that you haven't gone through, right? Because of their class position, because of their sexuality, because of their gender identification, whatever it is. Because you're a black woman, possibly an LGBTQ black woman, possibly, there's no way a black man could have ever gone through anything more egregious than just you being born as a black female. You being born as a black female is akin to the black man that was set up, served multiple decades in prison, then luckily for him, the Innocence Project found him not guilty and he's out after 2 and 3 decades. But you just being born as a black female, pretty much y'all are on the same level. You and that man who spent 2, 3 decades in prison for something that he was accused of that later was found out wasn't true. That is how the Lexus Exoduses of the world weaponize intersectionality. And they should, because that's what Kimberly Crenshaw created that mentality, that worldview for, that particular concept for. No one's plight matters more than a black woman's plight, black women's plight. Because black women's plight is the real plight. Everything else, a joke. Right? Tying that to something else that I watched tonight. Skim through it a little bit. All of these things I'm gonna have to really listen to in full. Rollo Tomasi doing a somewhat dedication video to ARC, Alan Roger Curry, right? And in his commentary, and rest in peace, Alan Roger Curry, in his commentary, he did the whole "it's not about race" thing. Now, Very few things annoy Mr. Z more than when white men in particular start doing the "it's not about race" thing. Yawn. Especially, and this is the one thing that the race cells get right. This is one of the things they get right. Right? Which is, okay, it's not about race. Explain the interracial marriage rate between Asian women and white men then. Huh. It's not about race. Rolo, explain why black women were dancing on Kevin Samuels' grave and white women weren't. They may not have liked him. Even the white woman that he went in on and kind of reprimanded on Fresh and Fit, she wasn't even celebrating his death. Why do you think black women were, Rolo? So, Rolo, you don't see... Rolo, you're all over social media. You see black women throwing you and other white men in black men's faces. You see those comments. Other men build. Other men provide. Rolo, what are you talking about? This is why there's a black manosphere. Because once we start talking this race thing, all of a sudden white men are like, oh, it's not about race. Rolo, I just want you to understand. Most black men do not ride with that whole weirdo Fresh and Fit crap that they got going over there. Where they keep on kissing y'all rear end and saying, yo, you know what? To me, the white man is the most oppressed. Yeah, the white man has it the hardest. And because Fresh and Fit and their little circle does that, you think that's what most black men think? No. Rolo, you're old enough. You remember when white men thought it was funny what black men were going through with black women? You remember when white men thought it was just a culture thing? And that black women were probably right? Y'all still think black women are kind of right. Ooh, Mr. Z. Huh? Maybe not you, Rolo, in particular. So whenever Latino men, black men, Asian men start speaking about how women in our race throw white men in our face, all of a sudden white men are, oh, it's not about race. Where are all the white women that's throwing black men in white men's faces? Those black men, they build. What do they throw in your face? Black men's good sex? Black men's physicality? Black women literally say to black men, you're conquered. What have you built? You can't provide, you can't protect. White women don't have a movement, and they definitely don't have a title for a movement of going out hunting black men. There is no white female equivalent of swirlers and divestors. I'm not saying there are not individual white women that don't go after black men. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying there's not a movement. There's not a circle of white women that meet online and create videos and have comments on Twitter, on TikTok, on Instagram, praising black men and speaking about how great black men are in comparison to white men. And so whenever the Rolos of the world do this, it's not about race thing, it's so disingenuous. And it's so dismissive of the experiences of black men. The vast majority of black men, once again, we're not talking about Fresh and Fit. Stop it. Once again, both black immigrants, or maybe one of them was born here but raised immigrant family. No. It's insulting to the experiences. Rolo, you're pulling the same thing that you hate when some of those trad cons do it. Well, if you would just work harder and accept God in your life and come to the church and meet a good Christian woman, and all your problems would disappear. How they dismiss the plight of men in particular because they're stuck in some 1950s understanding of power dynamics between men and women. That's the same thing you're doing, Rolo. If you don't understand race, everything else will confuse you. Shout out to Dr. Neely Fuller. Shout out to Dr. Francis Krauss Wilson. Rest in peace. So Rolo just spouting off like, oh, race don't matter. Yeah, no, not a factor. Not at all. Nope, nope. Meanwhile, 54% of American-born Asian women are married to 54% of American-born Asian women that are married to white men. Well, excuse me, said that wrong. 54% of American-born Asian women that are married outside of their race, primarily to white men. And yet Rolo wants you to think that this race thing don't matter. The question I always ask whenever white people say that is, when did it not matter? Name the day when racism, anti-blackness specifically, when it wasn't a thing. Name the day. Start at 1619. Name the day. I'll wait. The War of Independence, victory, the Vietnam War, World War II, World War I. Name the day. 9/11. Name the day. Right? When Barack Obama got elected, name the day. MLK's assassination, name the day. Right? Name the day, list the date when anti-blackness specifically, but racism, white supremacy, whatever you want to call it, name when did it not matter? Give me the exact moment when race was no longer a factor. This is the one thing that you got to enjoy about black women. They let you know it's a factor. But yet Rolo's saying it's not a factor. It's sexual dynamics, it's hypergamy. Okay, so in other words, what we're saying is when black women say white men do it better, when black women very overtly say, I'm going to go get me a white man, I'm going to go get me a Latino man or an Asian man. So when you hear the Lexus Exoduses of the world speak and the Mahogany Pinks of the world speak, you still say race doesn't matter. When Asian women say they don't want to date Asian men because Asian men remind them of their brother. So East Asian women are saying they don't want to date East Asian men because East Asian men look too similar to them, and they don't date South Asian men or even Southeast Asian men that are maybe darker skin tone. Right? They primarily end up with white men, and we think that's because race doesn't matter. The women are telling you that race matters. The researchers, the online dating statistics show you that race matters. Jennifer Lundquist, the number one thing on these dating apps is race, and white men run the yard. So Rolo, the question then becomes once again, what are you talking about? Whenever we start, and I get it, you don't want to get off into the race conversation because you're going to turn off so many of your white followers and subscribers. Cool. But then don't dismiss it. Just don't speak about it then. Just don't speak about it, right? But to dismiss it like it doesn't matter, why? Because Fresh and Fit tell you it don't matter, right? Because Fresh and Fit have stuck their finger in the air, see what direction the wind is blowing, and decided, yeah, we're gonna ride out with the white guys over here on this side. And yeah, they have a lot of black male subscribers, right? But you think they represent the majority of black men in America? Hmm? You think they even represent a third of black men in America? You think they even represent a quarter of black men? This kind of, yeah, race, nope. Racism, white supremacy, yeah, that's not a thing. Yeah. It's all, man, just level up, man. And you don't got to worry about anything, man. Just go to the gym and make sure your 401k is okay, and you have a good job or career, or you're starting your own business and you're making six figures and everything is going to be okay. Yeah, no. So I guess that's what it comes down to, right? So Fresh and Fit play down race, and all the white guys love that. So then they play. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, just man, hypergamy and okay, fine, hypergamy, dating and marrying up. So what do many women of color, most women of color, see as marrying up, Rolo? Okay, fine. Let's go with what you're saying. Hypergamy, fine. When women of color think of marrying up, what do they think? Right. I mean, I literally in the beginning of this video was speaking about black women insulting and belittling the intelligence and education of another black woman because she said and showed proof of black women not being encouraged to marry down. You think race doesn't matter. Okay. And then I mentioned another black woman whose entire channel is dedicated to how black men are trash and how black women should date and marry outside of the black race. And you think race doesn't matter, Rolo? Show me the channel of where white women are doing that. A dedicated channel on YouTube, because we have so many on the black side of things. But show me the channel on YouTube where white women have dedicated their entire channel to speaking about how white men specifically, not men, white men specifically are trash and encouraging white women to date out primarily the black men. Where's that channel, Rolo? Rolo, what did Dataclysm tell us about race? Oh, damn it. Mr. Z. What did Dr. Jennifer Lundquist tell us about race? What did Dr. Chantel Bugs tell us about race? All the information from OkCupid, all the information from all of these different Tinder and all of this. What does it tell us about race? But race don't matter? Right? So in that case, I have no when these black women end up with y'all and y'all are regular white dudes and they thought they were gonna come up off of you and then they rip you apart, I have no sympathy. None. You refuse to address the race question. And so you may have, probably not, but may have naively ended up with a black woman who you thought worshipped your dirty draws just because she's that in love with you. It had nothing to do with race. It had nothing to do with the implied status or your implied status because of your race. It had nothing to do with that. Okay. See, we're not talking about white women who kind of want to get off with some 10-inch dick having black dude so she could get her little fantasies off. No, there is no equivalent white woman to what we're saying about what black women and Latina women and Asian women are saying. In the Latino community, you literally have mejor la raza. Improve the race. Marry and date lighter and lighter and wider and wider. And that's encouraged to the girls and the boys. Y'all like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. K. Dot says Rolo and that white dude was made on, I guess he was trying to say, was on the latest Fresh and Fit episode when those girls who are white, black, and Hispanic saying they prefer black men over white men. Myron was surprised. Yeah, well, Myron spends so much of his time reassuring white guys that their plights are legitimate. And I think that their plights may be legitimate. I'm not going to dismiss their white men's plight, especially, kind of over the past few decades where they thought they had it together, but they really don't. And these white women are ripping them apart. But Myron and them do way too much blowing smoke up a white man's ass. Right? See, if you listen to Donovan talk, Donovan does it, but he does it in this little snide way where he lets white men know y'all run this shit and it's kind of y'all fault, right? He do it in a little slick out. If you see how Donovan frames it, he frames it in like, y'all got this. Y'all could get just about any woman y'all want simply because you're white. So he frames it differently, right? Where he kind of is low key taking shots at white men a little bit. No, that's not what Fresh and Fit do. They just go straight in for the tongue in the asshole. Right? And so now Rolo over here, hey, no, it's a hypergamy, man. Rolo, Rolo, you're one of the OGs in this space. In this manosphere space, you're one of the OGs. What does all the research say, Rolo? What does all the online dating research say? Look at the marriage numbers. A black woman get with a white man, he damn near got to kill her. She's not divorcing him. You think that's not about race? As a matter of fact, that's one of black women, the swirlers and divestors, that's one of their bragging points. Right? And Joe's, thank you for the super sticker. Joe's with the super sticker. Big Kev with the super chat. Thank you very much. Right? So let's be very clear. You have black women in Jules's comments saying black men are using victimhood mentality. Right? Yet Rolo's telling us race is not a factor, or is not that serious. He didn't completely, totally dismiss it, but kind of. You got Lexus Exodus using patriarchy as a weapon to bludgeon black men with, right? But yet, once again, Rolo's telling us, not that serious. Once again, I ask, where are all the white women with YouTube channels, excuse me, Twitter hashtags, Instagram channels, Instagram pages and Instagram hashtags about specifically anybody's better than a white man, particularly black men? K dot, I will do. K dot says, go look at Mr. Z. Go look at Fresh and Fit, recent episode with Rolo and a white dude. I will. GC says Myron don't even identify with black people. LOL. I don't know why people claim dude. Right? GC up. There's something to be said about that actually. GC says no other group of women is doing what black women are doing with the divest shit. No other group of women is as obnoxious and loud about it. I'll say that. But you gotta know Latinas are on it heavy when it comes to white men specifically. And Asian women are moving in silence, but they on the same thing black women are on. We have done it it's understandable. Think about it. If we still have like some of the fumes in the air of like patriarchy and definitely hypergamy, that's not even just fumes, right? And white men have gone around the planet over the past half millennial and raped, pillaged, conquered, destroyed just about everything and everyone on the planet. Of course the women are going to take to that. That's understandable. That's understandable. What gets annoying is when white men don't want to claim that half the reason why these women of color are even checking for them is because of that. Because of the ravages of what their ancestors left behind. Right? I mean, didn't we were like wasn't that a month or so ago when we were all speaking about that video that kind of resurfaced of the Asian guy exposing, or I think was it an Asian guy or a white guy that was exposing all those Asian women that a white guy could pretty much do whatever he wanted to do with? Girl with her boyfriend, he's still taking his hand out and holding her hand in front of the boyfriend. White guy, by the way, doing that. And Rolo will see that and say, yeah, no, race, nope, not an issue. Hypergamy, that's all that matters. And I will concede, okay, hypergamy. So what do women of color think is up? What do they think is the top? Fine, hypergamy, yeah. Infinitely dating and marrying up. What do they think the up is for the majority? Right? What's going on? Nino in here. Nino, what's going on, Nino? And so that's what's annoying about this conversation. And so, I'm you look out in the landscape, you see these people just talking. You wonder if the goal is for any progress, right? Or if it's just to vent forever. Because I want to be very clear. And my subscribers that are listening already kind of see this about me. Mr. Z is not actually about dictating anything to women. I'm not about making any law to force them back. I'm not about repealing. Nope, none of that. Nope, nope, nope. Let them do whatever. Just deal with the consequences of whatever. I'm not about dictating anything to women, trying to force them to be barefoot and pregnant. None of that. Nope. But when you fall off the cliff, there is no saving you. You catch that flat tire 2 or 3 in the morning? Nope. I'm walking to the store, you and your boyfriend get into it, he socks you in the face, I keep walking. Right? When we said equality, I don't think women really took into account what that really means. Now, there are a few women that they fully grasp what that really means, and they're also not trying to have this kind of have your cake and eat it too, where they know, okay, when we said equality, we got to know what that means. Right? Um, Shay put up the video back again, where she's kind of speaking about these divestors kind of not realizing the environment. And I don't know if it's in this in her having to put it up again. By the way, I guess they had deleted it or she had to take it down or edit it or whatever. But in the original, there was a clip that was part of the original where this it sounds like it was some type of Eastern European language. It could have been any Eastern European language. I can't really distinguish them. But the white woman, kind of look youngish white woman, walked up to the white man, slapped him in the face. It looks like it was maybe a bar or something like that. And he slapped her so hard she fell on her ass, literally fell on her ass. She slapped him before her hand stopped connecting. He was already slapping her back. Slapped her so damn hard he slapped her onto her ass. That's what equality looks like, ladies. It's not this kind of weirdo thing where you psych men out and say, well, if I hit you, you're supposed to eat it. And if you're the bigger person, so you're supposed to walk away. Right? That's what it looks like. So when Mr. Z speaks, I think in the foreseeable future, this man woman thing is going to get real ugly because no one socialized the women to what it actually looked like, what the numbers you wanted, at least for the women that were really on the up and up in the 60s and the 70s. You wanted at least half the nice positions, at least half the slots in school, right? I'm not talking about the ones that we know that really was some other agenda. It was really a power game. I'm talking about the ones that were really on the up and up. They just really wanted equality. They really wanted to be able to be a woman defined as a woman, independent of being married and having a husband and whatnot. They just wanted to be able to spend money how they want to spend money, go to school, do their own thing, get married if they want. Okay. If you wanted half the positions, half the prestigious positions, half the money, you had to know what that would come with. And what's happening is what you notice is that they're trying to rejigger it where I can have all these benefits with all of these benefits and none of the drawback. So like I still want all of the benefits of patriarchy. And I'm saying some old stuff. This is Manosphere language 1.0. This nothing I'm saying is new in this particular respect, but I still got to say it. I want all the benefits of patriarchy with all the benefits of this kind of modernity thing that we're living, this post second wave feminism thing that we're living. I want both. And even though there's no real way to make this thing kind of connect like a Lego block, there's no real way to kind of have this and that simultaneously. I'm going to try to make it happen. And the best way is to kind of try to psych the men out. How can we psych them out? where they still do the heavy lifting of patriarchy without the rewards. How do we should just try to shame them, tell them that, well, if you're a real man, wait, oh, that got a short shelf life. That only lasted a few decades. Okay, so what else can we do? Shaming language, that got a short shelf life. That's only gonna last a few decades. Getting other men to shame them, that got a short shelf life. That's only gonna last a few decades. And now we're here where you pretty much are running out of fumes, and your men across the developing world are saying, yeah, no, we're done. So the men in the West are getting their passports and dipping off to developing or underdeveloped nations, because that's the last they got maybe another decade or two of that left, right? And then the men that are in these developing nations, they're kind of SOL, right? And Lord Juno says, divestors just venting with an inferiority complex. They don't make sense with their arguments. It's all emotion and they ain't getting what they want because they're already basket cases. I mean, I would argue divestors are getting what they want. They just don't like the outcome. When these people said free market capitalism, what do you think they meant? The dating market is free. It's free market now. It's free. Y'all wanted to turn men into numbers, and so these men in exchange have turned you into numbers. And white men they don't rate you, not in any significant number. Once again, you live in an anti-black society. As I like to always say, this is not about black women's attitude, their weight, or none of that. You just live in an anti-black society. Now you can add all that those other things. But before we even get to your weight, before we get to the idea of the negative stereotypes about black women's attitude, and right, before we even get into that, you're a black woman in an anti-black society, right? So you wanted free market. You're the ones, especially for the divestors. You say black men are lacking, black men ain't building, they not providing, blah blah. Okay, well, free market. Go out there and show us what you can do. Hopefully, we let's say we give you 5 6 years, and hopefully you have that ring on your finger. So you're gonna start your tide of black men by the age of 25, 26. All right, you got it till 32. Make it happen, right? I'll be nicer than, shout out to the brother, the Roger Report. I'll be nicer than Raj. I'll give you an extra 2 years. 32 years old. Go ahead, make it happen. Let's see if you could get that white man to propose to you by the age of 40. I'll give you a whole decade. You got these weirdo divestors. We don't need all white men. We just need one. You really forgot what society you live in, or you're that delusional. I don't need all white men. All I need is one. When you say that, do you mean marriage, or do you mean any type of intimacy? Because you could get one white man to be intimate with you. Marriage, walking around with you and saying, "Hey, this is my wife. I have a legal binding to her. Something happens to me, you You speak to her, right? That's a different question, right? And yet Rolo's telling us this thing doesn't matter. What's the likeliness that all these men of color that are saying this are wrong, and it's a handful of other men of color, and then pretty much white men that are right? What's the likeliness that the masses of black men, the masses of Latino men, the masses of Asian men, the masses of indigenous men are all wrong, but the handful of indigenous men that agree with Rolo, the handful of black men, the handful of Latino men, and then all the white guys, they're the ones that are right? Oh, and that also would mean that we're not actually looking at what the online dating numbers tell us about who's getting responded to, and you know and who seems to be the gold standard. We would have to throw that all out the window, right? So I'm checking out all these videos, and it's it's somewhat difficult to have these conversations because so much of our current environment is not. And this is one thing I will give Rolo. Actually, this is the thing I actually do like, or I actually appreciate about Rolo. Rolo, much like BGS, much like Black Uru, are way more honest about the environment. Also, much like the brother Art New Style, these are the elders that are actually like, you know what? I can actually see where y'all are coming from. I can actually see the difference. I'm not gonna go. I may not agree with some of the actions you're taking, but I can definitely see how the environment has drastically changed over the past 30 or 40 years. Yeah, it was pretty bad when I was younger, but goddamn. So that's one thing I will give Rolo. For his age cohort of white man to be that ahead of the game, to see, hey, no, there's something really wrong with how we've socialized young people, particularly the women, over the past 40, 50 years, 60 years. That's one thing I will give him, because I've worked with middle-aged white guys, and they would have been shredded in divorce and still not get it. And they would still not get it. And well, and by the way, this is your own fault. Y'all thought it was cool to go along with that hyper individualistic Ayn Rand concept, all these weirdo concepts that were heavily, heavily pushed coming out of the late 70s. Y'all went along with it. And now it bit you in the rear end, or bit your son in the rear end, right? So one thing, like I said, I will give Rolo is that he kind of, not even kind of, he acknowledges this. He sees it, right? I'm just reading some of you guys' comments. I'm sorry for the quiet. And on another note, shout out to the brother Charles. I was on his panel earlier, and we were speaking about Brittany Griner, and shout out to Dr. Ron O'Neill. It is very. I am always humbled when our intellectuals and our doctors actually speak to us normal, like just have just a regular conversation with us, and they're not condescending. And that's something that I have always appreciated about the doctors in this space, right? They are just, you realize how much they had to do to accomplish and to achieve to a certain level, and yet when they speak to us, they speak to us so humbly, right? And they make themselves accessible. They don't try to necessarily speak over your head. And if they do have to reference something that's a little bit more complicated, they'll speak about it and then simplify it. And I always appreciate that about Dr. Ron O'Neill, right? Green Gorilla, Dr. T. I do respect that about them. And so we were on Charles' panel, and Dr. Ron O'Neill, you know, what's interesting is I think, like I said, I think we're gonna have to go through this dark period, and it's gonna continue for a little bit longer, right? Because I don't, I think the safety nets and the socialization has allowed for a certain mentality that has to run into the wall for the masses of people, particularly women, for them to get their mind right, right? And I think, there was a bit of a disagreement between me and Dr. Ron O'Neill, and not even disagreement. I think because I was telling him it's not like we don't lament certain kind of gender dynamics between men and women, but the problem is that the society has propped up women in a way where they can have this worldview and then not have to deal with the consequences of the worldview, right? And if I wasn't clearer, for those of you that were listening in to Charles's stream earlier, if I wasn't clear enough, that's what I was attempting to say to Dr. Ron O'Neill. I agree with him that men are going to be men, and eventually men are going to snap out of this. But it's not, as to me, men snapping out of it when the state has a monopoly on violence and force. It really won't matter as much if until the state decides to not kind of give women preferential treatment, both in family court, in cases of domestic violence, right? In conversations about, and the corporations also, by the way, it's not just the state. I want to emphasize that. As a matter of fact, you see this with the Gillette commercial, you see this with the Disney products that have been, coming out over the past decade or so. Increasingly, it's tailored in one direction, right? So what I'm saying is, until the state allows for these people to deal with the consequences of their actions, you're going to continue to have this kind of insane rhetoric, because on a day-to-day basis, women, when they say they don't need a man, they're somewhat right, because we've built a society where, like, the state or the corporations are they'll kind of take care of it, right? And what I was also saying to Dr. Ron O'Neill is that was inevitable with the rise of a certain type of technology, right? That was inevitable. So women do need men, plural, but a single woman doesn't, that's earning enough. This also speaks to the power of money, by the way. A certain woman that's earning enough, she doesn't necessarily need a man. But women do need men. Once again, we already know maintaining the infrastructure. We already know how many men are firefighters and police officers, how many of your military are men, and all of that. So they do need men. And because men have created a world where it's, especially in the Western world, that's a pretty well-oiled machine. Your groceries are there. The gas is in the gas pump, right? You're not really I mean, we're literally selling fruits and vegetables that you can only grow at a certain time of year. We're selling them year around, right? Globalization, which is about 40, 50-ish years old, and this level, this particular brand of globalization, I'm saying, you were, especially, y'all remember pre-COVID-19, getting something from China in a matter of days, sometimes 3 days. So in that world, I can excuse the average woman for thinking, I don't need no man. I just ordered something from China and it was here in 3 days. Literally from the other side of the planet, and it was here in less than, okay, not 3 days. It was here in less than 7 days. I have I have Instacart. I can order my groceries and have them to my door in an hour. Definitely within the next 2 hours. So with technology like that, where you can have a flat and call someone to call a tire company, a local tire company to come out and change your tire for you, or call a tow truck to tow it to the tire shop and have your tire. You'll be good to go within a couple hours. In a world like that, it's understandable. Now, how does that then affect women's day-to-day reality with individual men? Now, that's when we get into the good and juicy part of the conversation, right? That's when we get to the juicy part of the conversation. How does this now affect the way you view men, individual men, right? Like I like like I said, I'm not about forcing women to do anything. I just you I want the state to move out of the way so that you can live with the consequences of your actions and your thoughts. Now y'all know Mr. Z believes in a robust safety net. But we check your past. Oh, wait a minute. You were making these type of decisions? Oh, hell no. Right? And that's why I would argue we're seeing a particular attitude. We're not talking about your ghetto hood, you know, women. We're talking about your everyday woman who has a very contemptuous, you know, a very contemptuous understanding of men. Why does she? Because to her, on her day-to-day life, she doesn't have to consider what men think or say, and that's okay. My apologies, y'all. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. Right. And so when Rollo speaks in that, once again, I'm tying this to what I was saying about Rollo. What I appreciate is that he kind of speaks to that. It's a different environment, so it's a different game, and many elders do not appreciate it. And so I always shout out the elders that do. And quite frankly, money and status will just not, it won't be the answer for everything, because you need people, men and women, to actually fundamentally see men and women as human beings, where your value lies in you just being a breathing, living, feeling, thinking organism. Before we start factoring in how much money you make, how tall are you, what can you bench press, how fast can you run. Because once we start doing that, then we start atomizing each other and commodifying each other, and you get to where we are now, where you literally have swirlers and divestors speaking about men like it's a checklist. Right? Like they're mad that they're being told to go to the Kia pre 2005, right? They're told they gotta go shop at the Kia lot. They can't shop at the Benz lot like the white women. And that when you listen to swirlers and divestors speak, that's how they speak. They're being told they gotta go shop at the not even the Kia lot, the used Daewoo lot. Meanwhile, white women get to shop at the BMW and Mercedes Benz, the Audi car lot, right? Because of the way they view men and masculinity. Once again, the commodification of other human beings, right? And so the question then becomes, y'all have heard me say this before. If this has been the environment for some decades now, for some time now, what does it look like when women interact with it? Right? When your women are about status also, what does that look like? Right? What does it look like with 40 plus years of neoliberalism? How do your women interact with that? And then what does that mean for their personal relationships, their intimate relationships with the opposite sex, specifically in the black community? It looks like the women that are going in on Julesy pretty much telling her she don't know what she's talking about. All that history stuff is cute, but no. All right. It looks like Alexis Exodus having a whole entire YouTube channel essentially defecating on black men. Oh, how did I forget this? This was one of the important tenets of what I wanted to say tonight also. Um, did or did not Mr. Z tell y'all that eventually these people would be saying, screw just divesting from black men, divest from the entire black community? Oh yeah, that's where they are with it. Not only do they want to divest, understandably so, right? D Scott laughing. Yeah, I said Daewoo. D Scott says, this Negro said Daewoo, right? Not only are these people saying, understandably so, to divest from some of the more unsavory parts of the black community, that's understandable. Many of us agree with that. But they want to divest from black women who support black men, who love black men, who defend black men, who do not, and very important, they want to divest from black women who do not have outright contempt and rancor for black men. Now that's important to emphasize. These particular people want to divest from black men. Now, okay, they divest. A person, and we saw this, I covered this a video or two ago, which is black women who are saying that they want to be in relationships with racist white men. If a white man If a white man supports black men and black men causes, don't deal with him. So the reason why when we speak about these divestors, me in particular, Mr. Z in particular, these people are a non-factor in the great grand scheme of things. Outside, and this is where it becomes a problem. Outside of the fact that they have the ears of certain influential and important white folks, and that they didn't end up marrying some of these racists. So you have an anti-black woman running interference for her racist white husband or her racist white partner. And then, God forbid, she has a mixed child now who then gets lumped into the category of black, right? And what I'm saying is not far-fetched. This is not some weird conspiracy theory. I'm not walking around here with a tinfoil hat. If you listen to these divestors speak, understand the cataclysmic problem that they create when they do, for the ones of them that do, when they do end up with that white racist man. So once again, you have an anti-black black woman with an anti-black white supremacist racist man, and they have a mixed child. Right. Shout out to you, Prime VA. So I definitely had to mention that earlier. Oh, by the way, it looks like I checked. I did not see it. Maybe I need to check again. But it looks like Khadijah might have pulled her video down, addressing Abba and Preach. Yeah, it looks like she might have took that video down. Right. Once again, I do not necessarily put Khadijah in the same category as the Lexus Exoduses of the world. She is not that. Lexus Exodus, the rancor she has for black people in particular, and this is where classism gets in the way, right? Oh man, D Scott. D Scott said she pulled it down. She is too much of a punk for real criticism. How do you engage in this conversation and like, I look, this conversation amongst black men and black women about our relationships, our intimate relationships, our platonic relationships, our familiar relationships, it's not for the faint of heart. What did the Honorable Farrakhan say? Louis Farrakhan say? Minister Louis Farrakhan? Punctified. You can't be punctified, right? Talking about this black woman, black man thing. You can't. Once you step your big toe in here, understand you're dealing with heightened emotions, trauma, people's real life experiences. Some of this is not people's real life experiences. They're just talking just to be talking because it's the cool thing to do. It's the cool thing to defecate on the opposite sex, so that's what they're engaging in. Particularly the women, of course. But once again, don't start engaging in this if you're not really about it. Right? Go do your general conversation thing, your race neutral conversation thing over there off to the side. Go appeal to your 30, 40, 50, maybe more percent of non-black people that view you, right? Because I watched Khadijah's whole video twice. The one responding to Abba and Preach. She didn't really mention black like that, right? Which would, I would say, Khadijah probably occupies a lot of that kind of Ostefco lane. I don't put them exactly in the same category, but I think there's a lot of overlap over there, right? So yeah, I didn't realize that. I wondered if it got deleted from them, or I mean from her, or if she, or if she's the one who took it down. But I wouldn't be surprised if she's the one who took it down. You engage because Khadijah is one of those card carrying, like, black feminists, womanists, whatever you want to call it. And so she tried to do the haha, we're doing so much better when we're not with men and we don't have kids. And Abba and Preach, particularly Abba, saw that and say, bet, let's do some research on that. Oh, look, you're wrong here, wrong there, wrong here, wrong there. And she didn't know how to take it. You went in on that weirdo, like, black woman empowerment, women power thing. Men ain't ish, men are so not ish, and you didn't say those exact words, but it was implied throughout your entire video. Men ain't ish so much. What am I doing? I was using profanity earlier. Let me actually speak how I need to speak with this. Men ain't shit. Men are so not shit that we actually fare better in life when we're not partnered with them. Excuse me. And add on to that, also when we don't have children with them. And once again, Aban Preach saw that. They responded. They made a video to it. And you pretty much said they mischaracterized everything you said, while taking shots at them here and there, while implying, and I'm so happy everybody saw what I saw in Abba's and Preach's second video from her original video, not even from her response, but from the original video about the men's is lonely. They made a part 2 to that. And in the part 2, they aptly titled it Feminism Will Save Men, or something along those lines, right? And they pretty much came to the conclusion that what Khadijah and many women, feminists in particular, think is that if black men just adopt and move the way women, particularly black women, move, we'll be perfectly okay. I said that in the previous video. Just act like black women, you'll be all right. And as a matter of fact, if I remember correctly, there was a woman that called into Yvette Carnell's show once, years and years and years ago, that pretty much said the same thing. Right? Y'all like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. Right? There was a I want to say there was a black woman that pretty much said the same thing. I can't remember what Yvette was covering, but she pretty much said the same thing. Right? Y'all have terraformed the education system to be beneficial for y'all, and there's nothing wrong with that, but then deal with the consequences of men saying, I'm not going in there. Right? And then so you can fight for the however percent of men that decide to engage and then they still graduate on the other side and they're heterosexual, right? TJ Hunter says, I missed an hour. Have have spin back around for upload. Call us Dusty, but want money. Keep with your plans, fellas. No negotiating with terrorists. I mean, so when we tell them you're going to end up buying a dog and dying alone, or you're going to be a cat lady, they see that as us terrorizing them. They see that as us dooming them to a horrible fate. And to a certain extent, it is saying, if you continue on this road, if you continue seeing men this way, if you, we're talking about heterosexual women now, we're not talking about the queer folks like Khadijah. How do you think this is supposed to turn out? Like, that's always the thing for me in particular. I say this a million times. I'm not just, it's, when I say this, I don't just say it just to say it. You think you're better than your black male counterparts. For the most part, white men are too anti-black and racist. They're not interested. For the most part, right? Even for the swillers and divestors, they're not. They're just not. That, but you know, bedroom fun, yeah. A short little situationship, potentially, yeah. But marriage, for the most part, no. Same thing with LGBTQ women. So where does that leave you, black women? Once again, you think you're better than your black male counterparts. Non-black men, for the most part, are not interested. Non-black women, for the most part, are not interested. Where does that leave you? But with your toy, some type of pet, and you by yourself. That doesn't mean you won't have a circle of friends. That doesn't mean you might not have a oops child that you raise and now you have some type of companion. But for the most part, those experiences, that level of intimacy, that long life with a person of the opposite sex, where y'all have these memories going back some 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, maybe 40, 50 years, that's out the window. And it's from your own understanding of what these men should be and what these men lack. That's if you're willing to acknowledge that they're men in the first place, right? They see us as the terrorists, TJ. Right? Ashley Acuna from the Grapevine kind of slipped up and said something along those lines years and years and years ago. Yeah, Mr. Z is all over the interwebs. You'll see me reference some things from like 5 years ago. You're like, God damn, wait a minute. That person don't even remember they said it. Right? So yeah, they see us as terrorizing them. And I definitely understand why you said terrorists, because what's their argument? Either do what I say or I will salt the earth. I will pollute the minds of the young women. I will go snitch into white daddy. Look, white daddy, look how black men are talking about us. Isn't that what Crystalline Karazin? See, this is me once again doing it again with the references, right? Isn't that what Crystalline Karazin was saying years ago when that documentary came out? I think it was about abuse or physical abuse, domestic abuse in was it South Korea or was it Japan? I want to say it was Japan. I want to say it was Japan, right? It was talking about like the equivalent of street harassment in Japan, and kind of some of the, Japanese men and how they, interact with women. And Crystal Krausen was lamenting, and you know they need to do it on the black community and black men. So I definitely see what you're saying, TJ, with the no, not negotiating with terrorists, because what these particular women are saying is either bow to us or we're gonna go snitch to white daddy, right? And I said snitch, I didn't say tell, because telling means that you just telling, right? You were witness to something and you just gonna go run and tell. Snitching means that you're part of it and you flip and go tell. And that's what black women are engaging in. We're all pillow fighting. They get hit with the pillow a little too hard, then they want to go run and snitch. Right? And they might have been the one that start hitting you with the pillow first. And so when we talk about this terrorist thing, they are saying, I will salt the earth. I will enter into one of these prestigious universities. I could be part of the academic staff. I will become tenured and I will write books destroying your image. I will become writers in the background of your favorite movies and television shows, destroying your image. I will make passing comments around non-black people, destroying your image. Black men already destroyed their image enough. Well, thank you for the help. Fine. But yeah, okay. And thank you for the help. Right? So when we say terrorists, it is like I said, I will destroy your image in the mind of the young women and girls. I will attempt to destroy your image in the minds of non black people of color. So not white, not black. Definitely help to perpetuate the anti black understanding of you by white folks. I will salt the earth because you didn't make me an upper middle class white woman or a rich white woman. That is terroristic. I don't even know if that's a word, right? Actually, let me address that. Longo Savage says they don't think through the insane things they say. They seem to be just saying things for the sake of talking. I think that's partially true. I think also what's happening is that now you're dealing with the one-upsmanship. Who can say the most egregious thing? Who can take the neo-Nazi language to another level? To the point where the previous things that we thought were insane become benign. So I definitely can see where you're going with this, but I think now they're just engaging in what one-upsmanship, right? She said abort black male babies. I'll say I'll shoot them myself. Oh, excuse me. She said she'll shoot them herself. I'll encourage a white man. I'll bring on a white racist cop on Clubhouse and then tell him how scared we are. It's this one-upsmanship. And that's interesting. Think about what I'm saying. We're in the era of black women in these type of spaces. This is definitely not all or most. That one I'll make that argument. But these particulars trying to whoop one up each other and how egregious they can speak about black men. I just want Paris to know, Paris, I have the clip saved of you saying, I don't care, I'm gonna probably have to clip this out, but I think all of these military people come back a little mentally unstable. I don't think any of you women should be dealing with them. Oh, I have it saved on my phone, Paris. So when I say one-ups men, I mean it. They'll be talking real crazy on these lives and then delete them or put them on your Patreon. Right? Yeah, that's who they are. So Longo, when you say, you know, what do you say? They don't think, oh, I'm sorry, my comments just moved up a little bit. They're just saying things to say things. That's partially true. Like I said, that's partially true. I mean, look over the brother said. Detroit says, I seen and heard about black women's asking white men on Clubhouse to delete, right? Black men. I mean, I think I know which particular clip you're speaking about. If I could remember it correctly, it's nothing. That's I mean, and I do think some of these people legitimately have mental issues. I know I don't like speaking about that because I don't like people using mental issues as an excuse to say the most insane things. But I do think like some of these people legitimately have have issues. It goes to that, like, when a person just pops stuff all the time on news or anything like that, and then you see a person like this is what we accuse Fox News of, right? They'll be popping all this stuff all the time, but then when a person actually consumes way too much of your content and then actually takes your words into action, then you want to back up, right? I mean, we literally see this with the New Zealand shooter in Candace Owens, right? You saw you saw Bill O'Reilly cop and please with what mass shooter was it years and years ago, right? So I'm saying that to say these particular content creators, I do think some of them have mental issues, but I do think some of their subscribers have mental issues. Y'all are talking this crazy on the internet, and you have a loyal following of hundreds, if not thousands, of people. For some of them, tens of thousands of people. You have to know that some of these people aren't really, their head is not in the right place. And what I love about these newfangled mass shooters or whatever, they're calling out the people that instigated them into this. I love call them out, right? Because that was always the game, right? I'll just keep on talking crazy, and then one day somebody that's kind of not there mentally, they'll go out and act on some of the stuff I say. But then I can always back. Well, I didn't say anything crazy. I made sure to stay within these bounds of you know prescribed conversation. But really, you were enticing these people to do something insane. This is another reason why I'm careful what I say. Because first of all, I truly believe it. Like when I say not all black women, when I say particularly when I say not most, I really mean that. These people don't even say that. The divestants, oh, the divestors will tell you all except for two, right? That's what Mahogany Pink said on her Lexus Exodus video. I mean, on her Lexus Exodus interview, how rare a good black man is, whatever that means. Detroit, wow. Detroit says, Seen and heard when Divested Zealot channel calling little black boys and black men in N-words with the hard ER, right? And laughing about it like cackling or crackling old hens. And yet their channel hasn't been shut down yet. I know that's what you meant to say. Yeah, of course not. Of course not. Because they're doing what they're supposed to do. They're doing what they're supposed to do, and that's okay. Right? And that's okay. You know, we understand what society we live in. And there'll be a lot it for me it always goes, okay, you get all of that. Do you got the ring though? And I think for Divested Zealot, I think she is in a relationship with a white man. I'm not sure, right? But for me, it's always this. Okay, you're virtue signaling. You're doing all of this extremist talk, and that's definitely extremist talk, right? That's cool. But do you got the ring, right? That's what it comes down to. I'm not talking about a situationship. I'm not talking about some white guy that flirted with you or that told you look good or that complimented your skin tone or your natural hair. No, no, no. Are you married? Screw everything else. Are you married? Because if you're not married to these mythical, magical, black, non-black man, and I would also add to it, are you married to this guy and he is one of those kind of upper tier, upper middle class, maybe rich white men? Because of all the complaints that you file against black men, it has to be that way. You have to have not only screw dating, you have to be married to an upwardly mobile, upper middle class, or rich white guy. Anything short of that, then you just talking crap. Right? You were just all that extremist language, you were just talking crap. What have you built? What if black men build? Black men are conquered. If you ain't end up with a rich or upper middle class white dude, married, by the way, not just dating, long term relationship, have sex. He just come through. Y'all got a little situationship going on. No, 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 no. If you're not married to that upper middle class or rich white guy, everything else is mute or moot. Better yet, you're just talking. And there's some people that are just talking. Right. So I think I'm about to end it out in a minute, you guys. Any last comments or anything you guys have for me? So let's go over it again. Um, went through Julesie's comments again for her video about how black women have not been encouraged to marry down. And when I went through those comments, I got to really see some things I didn't really see before, right? Especially the comment that really did it for me was the one where a young lady said black men have a victimhood mentality. I mean, once again, like I said, black people, you got to be careful for that. I get it. And this is for black men and black women. This is, yes, even for the black men. You got to be careful with this. I get it. The frustration, you're angry, you're mad, you feel traumatized, you feel attacked. Cool. Y'all got to be y'all got to be careful how y'all are low key enticing and allowing for non-black people to screw both of us just because you mad. You mad things ain't going the way you wanted to, so you're gonna scorch earth everything, including yourself. You gotta be careful how you talk. That victimhood mentality, you playing with racist tropes when you start doing that. And I'm particularly saying that because I've seen, thank you, D Scott. D Scott says for the plate. Thank you, D Scott. D Scott with the 5 on the super chat, right? And I've definitely heard certain black men say similar. That once you start talking about victimhood mentality in this society, I I don't I think it's ill advised. I'll say that. I think it is very ill advised to say a black man or a black woman but definitely black men or black women are using victimhood mentality. I don't, it's not wise in this environment with the re-rise or re-rise the reinsurgence of white supremacy. White supremacy, mm, not wise. And shout out to once again the sister Shay Sade. Me and her are pretty much on the same page when it comes to this. When it comes to the money talk, right? When it comes to like black people kind of playing around with this white supremacist language, you that frustrated, you don't know what you signing up for because you think it's a joke, right? So that's that is about the Julesy video. Then we spoke about the Lexus Exodus video where she once again defecating on black men. That's what her channel is about, right? And advocating for, and this is what I want to stress, for her subscribers or the ones that think like her to divest from the entire black community. So once again, these people just wanted to be white from the beginning, politically and socially white, maybe even phenotypically. All right. And so they're using, I would argue, some weird form of classism to advocate for black women like this to kind of leave the black community, which I'm actually not in disagreement with. I just know you're gonna leave the black community and take all of your racist tropes to non-black people and then be yucking it up with them as they low-key make inward jokes. Maybe even not low-key. Detroit asks, "Have you watched Courtney Wayne skits?" No, not yet. No, no, no. So I'll check that out. I'll check that out. Courtney Wayne. I will check that out. Right. Then we also spoke about Rolo and this kind of like obscuring of race when we have these type of conversations about men and women and sexual dynamics and hypergamy and leveling up and kind of how white guys do what Rolo does all the time, which is dismiss the entire race conversation and try to throw up some random. There's always that black friend. I got a black friend, and for Rolo, rest in peace to Alan Roger Curry, rest in peace to Kevin Samuels. He did mention them, but I mean, literally, the video is a dedication to Alan Roger Curry. But for him, his black friends right now are fresh and fit, and I don't know. There are way too many black people that will tell you that is not that they don't represent when black men speak about black men. Not saying these people are in black or black adjacent, but when black Americans speak about black men, black American men, those two are not on top of the list. Not even close. So let's not dismiss what the masses of black men are saying because fresh and fit may be telling you something different and how race is not that serious and how white men got it harder and mm. And the rest of my commentary was a bit random after that, right? But yeah, so it's this was just a random mashup, and that's why I said mashup. I kind of wanted to just get some thoughts out. I didn't really want to necessarily have point. There were certain things I wanted to say. I think I got them out today or tonight. You know, yeah. But that victimhood mentality for me tonight, that's the one that, and I random to oh yeah, I mentioned Khadijah also and Abba and Preach. But, you know, to see someone engage in this stuff, even because I see what I see much of what Juicy is trying to do. And they did it in her comment section anyway. She's trying for you not to be so angry at black men you sound like this about black men and black people. And you did it anyway. Without realizing that you're salting the earth even for you yourself as a black woman. Once you start talking that victim mentality talk, you open the door for people to do you wrong for real and then say, well, stop using that victim, stop being a victim. That's that victim mentality talk. And you would think a black person born and raised in America would know better. You would think. Giving essentially being so mad at the opposite sex, you give white racists a pass and you start using their language, not even start. Sorry. Wrong word. Right? Definitely wrong word. All right, so I'll truly pause right there. Um, Gotta get some stuff done real quick. But and I will check out what Detroit told me Courtney Wayne skits. Okay, I will definitely check that out. Y'all have a great rest. Well, many of you, I don't even know why you're up right now. But y'all have a great rest of y'all day. Y'all already know Mr. Z's ending. Y'all go check out other Black Manosphere content creators. Go check out some other non-Black Manosphere content. I think I'm gonna come in with some non-Black Manosphere content later. I definitely, like I said, I definitely want to get my rant on about some of the Jeff Bezos and the Elons and yeah, I want to get a little bit of, and I even invite some of my conservative brethren because I think y'all will actually agree with me on this. I want to get my rant on, and I call it a rant because it's going to be a rant. I want to get my rant on about these corporations running everything on the low. Y'all keep on talking about these politicians being bought. Y'all don't. No one talks about who's buying them though. I'm just saying, if we're going to talk about the politicians being bought, who buying them? And I'm definitely going to get my rant on about these uber wealthy people and these corporations and then buying up everything and then the rest of us got to be out here fending for ourselves and starving and who's really getting the tax cuts, that part too. um and business not be able to solve every answer. I mean, even Mark Cuban had to come to that realization with COVID-19 because he even said, nigga, we didn't have the logistics, we could not do it. Like, I'm pretty much, and ending out with this, with pretty much Mark Cuban came, had a come to Jesus moment during COVID and said, yeah, we be talking all that shit as business people and the country should be ran like a business and da 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 da. And when COVID happened, we realized, like, oh, so this is the power of government. Yeah, billionaire Mark Cuban had to come to that realization. I'm just saying. And y'all know he's arrogant as hell. So for him to pretty much say that, right? So, I definitely got to get my rant on about that. So, truly, I will pause right here. Love, peace, and chicken grease. Y'all brothers stay up. Y'all have a great rest of y'all day. Mr. Z out.